picture you paint, Bankole, is actually scary. That's the reality. And I always had a personal opinion that when I think of the military regime, I think the amount of free markets that exist today, some might argue that there isn't so much of free markets, but at least in today's world, it's easy for someone to think of launching out a business and to think of the possibility of excelling at that business. Now, from your own experience, because I'm sure you're dealing with young entrepreneurs, you're dealing with people that have been entrepreneurs for decades, that have also been through some very difficult economic period. What are you seeing to be the major factor that is going to help SMEs, people who run SMEs, power through this season? Because it's not easy for me to pack up, to just shut down the entire manufacturing industry, an entire manufacturing business. It means that I've lost all form of hope and possibility to keep it going. So from your interaction with the SME segment, what do you think will keep a number of them going? Because we need that sector to exist to get us out of the mess, irrespective of the governance structure that we have and the reality that it seems like we do not have safety net and we do not have systems to protect us as individuals or companies. From what you're seeing, what's that thing that will still give the SME sector room to contribute significantly to our growth?
Okay, so now I do not like to be a prophet of doom. So,
I know.
Unfortunately, I'm also a strategist. I'm not an aspire to aspire. So exactly how it is. I'm a strategy professional. Right? Now, I have a lot of clients who are struggling at this time. I have a lot of community members who are struggling at this time. Right? I own a business, so I'm also struggling, right? So it's everywhere. Now, there are two ways that we can help these guys. The first is what government needs to do. The second is what we as individuals or as people of influence or as business owners need to do from our own end, right? Now, from the government, I think I mentioned it earlier on. Countries all over the world, based on this Ukraine issue, have now seen the need to accelerate efforts at developing their alternative energy, right? Spain, for example, is upgrading their electricity transmission network, to utilize more energy from renewable sources. Remember that Spain was badly hit by this whole Ukraine war, this issue, there was protests on the street and all that, right? Now, they are also providing stimulus for the commodity and energy challenges that they are facing, right? So government cannot just be sitting in front of the TV and telling us we understand, we commensurate, it's ridiculous. There has to be a systemic attempt and effort at first reducing the federal government's input and influence on power. It has become inefficient. It has proven to be silly and stupid over the years, right? There needs to be a decentralization of power such that multiple players can then come into the picture. Because even if I do renewable energy, I can't do it at scale because there's a centralization problem. If I create an independent power plant, I cannot do it at scale because I have to connect to the national grid, which is then limited by its capacity to even distribute what I've already generated, right? So we need to even first decentralize power so that multiple stakeholders can come in and provide those alternative power to various clusters of industries and MSMEs, right? Now, number two, I already spoke about stimulus. Stimulus packages need to be provided, and not all these FOX or quasi-stimulus that or pseudo-stimulus that CBN will provide, and then we will not see the impact, right? There needs to be stimulus intervention that is distributed through various clusters of SMEs. And when I say clusters, I'm talking about unions, I'm talking about communities, I'm talking about credible associations that have verifiable linkages to SMEs, and that can ensure that these stimulus packages get to the people who need it. And then you also work with those in clusters to monitor and evaluate the impact of those stimulus interventions, right? Now, that's another link. So for us as business owners, as clusters, we need to create a peer-to-peer learning framework amongst our community. So somebody who has been able to solve a problem can teach others how he solved that problem and become a support system to each other. Number two, even at unit level, as a business owner, you also need to start thinking about how to reduce your exposure and dependence on government. So there needs to be I lost my chain of thoughts. Ahmed just made me lose my chain of thoughts. Can I remember what was I saying?
The last thing you said, you moved from pairing, then you're moving to running sustainable systems.
Thank you. Exactly. So I was saying that if you are able to bring that cohesiveness, organizations will be able to do peer-to-peer learning, right? You can build a more sustainable MSME community by learning from each other, because that's the biggest issue. You look at the banking sector, as competitive as it looks, they learn a lot from each other using the bankers committee, right? The bankers committee is an association, is a group, is like a club of all the CEOs of banks and other stakeholders, right? You look at the cooperative societies that these women build in markets, they do a lot of learning from each other, provide a lot of support systems to themselves. Look at fintech. In fintech industry, it's almost like a secret society. The way they rally around each other to support each other, they tell you they are building something for youth-led startups, women-led startups, something. They create an entire ecosystem that supports themselves. So everybody, all of us need to do the same thing. We're trying to do that with the Lagos SME Bootcamp, and I'm hoping that all of you, it doesn't have to be big. Whatever business that you do on this group, look for similar people who do it, right? Your strategy is your strategy. Because you are trying to create a peer-to-peer learning platform does not mean that you will not succeed. Are you following me? Because you need each other. You need to learn what the next person is doing. Because the essence, most people that own small and micro businesses are in it for survival. They are not in it for some fancy profit or something. You're doing it because you need to survive. You need to put food on the table. So, and if you do not build clusters that help you survive, you most likely will just die. The business will crash and then you move on to other things, right? Now, so that peer-to-peer learning is important. Number two, you need to start thinking about how to diversify. Now, diversify can be in terms of products, can be in terms of services, can also be in terms of focus. So if, for example, you made plantain chips and up until today, the group of buyers of your plantain chips are only school students, right? Your school students may not be sustainable in terms of, there's a lot of noise here, in terms of buying on a more sustainable basis. So this is the time for you to start thinking, okay, can I diversify my customer base to include workers? Who are the people within your circle of influence that are working and inflation is also affecting them? They are also looking for alternative snacks, right? Can you do an agreement with them to be supplying them? If your chips is 100 naira, can you be supplying them 90 naira in bulk over the next? So you think of alternatives, right? If you make your chips only in 100 naira bits, can you reduce it? Can you start making 50? So it's time to diversify. Who says it's only chips that you must do? Are there alternative, products that you can look into, right? Again, what I said about government, you also need to look at it individually. This is the time to start looking at how to cut costs in your production line. So it depends again on the industry that you are into, right? You can, by 1,000,000 mile, engage with professionals. You can talk, you can join. If you follow the Lagos SME Bootcamp community on all our platforms, Instagram, social media, You can, send me a message, talk to me about what you're doing in your business and how you like us to support or provide advice and all of these things. And then, you have to then execute, because discussing is not enough, which is another issue that, businesses have. They brainstorm so much that, they forget to execute. And if you forget to implement, it's as good as not even having had any discussion, right? So, so these are just a few areas, to be honest. But again, there are a lot more. But this is one of those areas. If you have a diesel generator, clearly this is the time to sell off that diesel generator, buy yourself a petrol gen. This is the time for you to have an accountant, either in-house or outsourced, that can give you a full visibility on where you are in terms of your numbers as an organization, right? This is the time for you to subscribe to an inventory or basic accounting application. And there are so many of them that you pay $5 to $10 a month, even less. $5 is just about 2K or 2.5, right? A month. And it will help you keep your basic books. It will provide you with insight and data. Data is the bloodstream of your business. If you do not have data, you will not even be able to know where the most of your expenses are coming from, where your wastage is coming from, how to improve on it, how to plug those leakages, right? So there are quite a lot of them, but these are just a few things.